So I'm going to ask you a question that could take you 60 minutes to answer. I'm going to ask you to answer in 60 seconds. Okay. What you're giving your personal opinion. It's not just be very, very clear here, but knowing what you know, what advice would you give someone who's watching this or listening to this that is a prime borrower, is in a good place, has a good job, making money, sitting on some cash, and they want to do the right thing. They want to take advantage, knowing what you know.
Okay.
What are a couple things that they can do to take advantage of the unknown next 10 plus years?
Okay. Short term, if you just wanted to dump some money some places, if you and a spouse structure it correctly, you could put up to $40,000 in I bonds that are returning an incredibly high rate right now. Those are risk-free government instruments that are super cheap, but are producing nearly 10% returns that are guaranteed. That's an easy one if you just want to dump money for safety purposes. I would say probably equity market. I don't know what it's going to do. No one knows what it's going to do. But if everyone's predicting a high likelihood of recession, there's a good chance the equity market's going to take a hit. That's pretty normal. I don't know if that's gold or something else, but I think if you can find fixed rate debt on a cash servicing business, whatever that is, go for it. Make sure you're underwriting it well. Make sure you're understanding what vacancy, if it was real estate, for instance, or what losses would be in other businesses, types of things. But just evaluate that. And if you have the money to spend, there's going to be great buys. I think you might want to wait a little bit, continue to build that cash buffer up, and then kind of look and see, okay, now as the recession is hitting and you are seeing these losses, as banks take in those foreclosed on properties, they have to hold that stuff, and they often sell them at pretty favorable prices if you're ready and willing to buy at that point. So maybe look for some good options. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, VA, all those have programs you can buy their foreclosed properties online with lower cost money down. That's not a bad option if you're looking at real estate. But again, I don't think there's ever not somewhere to make money. You just need to understand the risks, and you need to model out the risks. And it's not about what each individual thing or product or instrument or property or whatever you buy does. How does it work with your portfolio? How does this function collectively? And once you understand that, it's much easier to understand how you can add different products. But I think there's not a lot of solid answers, but depending on where you are and what you're doing, there's ways you can make money. And I still think, if I found a good property investment tomorrow, I would still start trying to move on it if I thought it made sense. And I think there's variable ways that can happen, but I think it's very doable.
Jonathan, I appreciate you, man. I think you summed that up extremely well. And there's this thing called the golden rule, which is that those who have the gold make the rules. And I think in a recession, when people are hurting, if you have access to capital, you will be able to buy assets that are distressed. And in the end, you'll be like, wow, that was great. I always, even when we had high inflation, people are feeling like their money was eroding away in their savings account. I said, okay, inflation over 30 years that's true.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a bad idea to sit on some cash with the mindset of where am I going to deploy it the next 5 years. And so I appreciate that. We'll maybe have to have you back on a jam and I bonds, or I might have to have someone else on how that works, because you're not the first person that's told me about that. And I definitely think our audience would love to figure out how they can take advantage.
For a small investor, it's great returns, it's great money, it's solid, and it's there's a few idiosyncrasies to it, but it's very doable. And I think look out and just pay attention to the markets and read the paper. That's